Welcome to the Human Frame podcast.
With me, Łucja. Today I'm joined by Lois Tallulah. Lois is a writer, director and actor whose work explores identity, womanhood and power through a bold and authentic lens. She is the founder of Shorties, a creative platform and event series dedicating to championing female and non-binary filmmakers, providing space for emerging voices to share their stories on screen. Lois's storytelling blends activism and artistry, using film as a means to challenge stereotypes and spark conversation. Her work reflects a commitment to representation, empowerment, and the belief that storytelling can reshape the cultural landscape. I hope you like that little intro.
I love it. That sounds great. It sounds really super. And more recently, actually, I've taken that storytelling activism onto the stage as well, with my play In the Shadow of Her Majesty, which is an exciting new project too. We're all doing our bit, aren't we?
We are, aren't we? Thanks so much, Lois, for coming on today. I'm really excited to have a conversation with you about all of this.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. Thanks for having me, babes. And I love the work that I do at Shorties. I love smashing patriarchy and I love talking about it. So what better way to do that than this podcast?
Amazing. So I want to get into your background and journey into all of your work as well. So can you tell me how you started and how you first became interested in writing, directing and acting?
Do you know what it was? I actually tried so hard not to go into this industry. I came in with my eyes open because I grew up my parents were jobbing actors when I was young, and I was on free school meals, and it was a feast or famine lifestyle that I'd kind of seen from a very young age. And seeing my parents out of work and just, as a lot of freelancers out there probably can also resonate with this, it's that keeping the wolves from the door 24/7. When you've got a job, you're constantly thinking of when's the next job. That stability, you just don't have that. I mean, I've got my own ideas about why the world is structured this way. I don't think it's set up for freelancers in the same way, bringing in this new tax thing that they're bringing in with trying to make freelancers do it quarterly instead. And it's not, maternity. I'm currently pregnant and finding out that when you're freelance, it's not a vibe, guys. They want to push us into mortgages in order to get a mortgage, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, do you know what? I actually don't want to go into that. So I wanted to be like a manager, a producer, more of a producer. I mean, I am a producer now, but and I went to university to try and do business management. But I've been an actress from when I was fresh out the womb, babe. Do you know what I mean? I'm one of those kids that was like, we've got a show, I've got a new song, ADHD rampant little girl that's just wanted to show off. So I did actually try and go against the grain and against what actually was innately inside me. And I'm part of my DNA as well, from a family of creatives. And I went to university and I really struggled at uni. My dyslexia and my ADHD didn't help. I had no creative outlet. I had loads of coursework, and I ended up at my middle of my second year changing to do theatre. So, with all the best intentions, I changed to do theatre and I managed to stay at uni. I wouldn't have stayed at university if I hadn't followed that instinct, and I did aerial performance, and we did immersive theatre, looking at Punch Drunk, and it was absolutely brilliant, and it made the money now worthwhile because I actually did learn so much about the creative and cultural industries in a more practical world. And then I I left uni, I went into television. So I did go into producing, and I was a production assistant first for a show called Rasta Mouse, a kids show. But I was kind of chucked in the deep end there, where I was actually the personal assistant for Eugenio, who ran that company. And he was the exec. So I got to see hands-on what it takes, what the things that need to be done, personality, drive, ambition, those kind of creative attributes that you also need to have when you're creating your own work too. No one's going to believe in your idea like you. Oh, sorry, that's my dog Stella, who's moaning in the back.
Bless her. She's adorable.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I agree. Huskies, they're vocal dogs. So yeah, then I went into Channel 4 and I was making their beauty shows for them. And it was still an office job. I was still working an office job. Yes, it was a creative office job, but instead of 9 to 5, it was 10 till 6. That's how they were like, it's creative. We only work 10 till 6. But it was at my computer. I was like a great personality to have in the office, a good person to have on set, all of that good stuff. But I wasn't being fulfilled, I was earning good money, and like I said, it was PAYE. You're in a company and you're getting the perks that you need, and you've got holiday, and it was cushy. And to be fair, if I'd have stayed at that Channel 4 job, I probably would be absolutely loving life right now. But at that time, I was like, there's more to life. So I went traveling, and then I retrained again, and I went back to drama school, and I trained at East 15 acting drama school. And actually there was so much in that training that helped shape me as the creative I am today, because it was so like a wholehearted experience of training. I'm trying to put it into words, but if anyone out there has been to East 15, they know it's like humanism. Human is enough, cut the bullshit. I was a city girl in the fast lane, and I found myself in Epping Forest reading sonnets to leaves. It was like
so funny. But the thing is, the things that actors do in order to, understand certain things, is just, you would tell a normal person and they would think you're absolutely bonkers, but it works.
And it was a spiritual experience for me, and it also fanned the flames of creating my own work, which is something I really champion now in this oversaturated, financially fearful industry that we find ourselves in, that actually we can't rely on waiting for the phone to ring. We can't rely on a buzz being created about us that we haven't actually initiated and sparked and set fire to ourselves.
Yeah, and what kind of challenges or turning points also shaped your path in the creative industries as well? I mean, you mentioned a few of them.
I mean, I think that this industry, there is no straight road, and encountering lots of rejection as well in the build up. Some of it, rejection equals redirection, but some of it actually made me put my foot on the gas even more. So, for example, when I left drama school, I hadn't found my niche, and for me it was so important to find that niche. And I know a lot of actors don't want to do that, but ultimately me making this kind of Cockney girl, rough and ready box for me to sit in helped create the foundation of the rest of my career. So sometimes these pillars that are put in place for us that are not in our control actually can help propel us into the direction that we need ultimately. And it was the film that I made in that acting niche that started everything, that started my career in acting, that I changed my agent after I made my first film. I got a lead role opposite Neil Maskell in a Netflix #1 film called Bull. I was on Amazon doing period dramas, and it all stemmed from feeling like I had no place in the industry and creating my own niche box that nobody but me could fill.
Well, exactly. And I think it's like what you said, it's using what you have to your absolute maximum, because once you've done that, you can do absolutely anything. But I guess it's just like feeling restricted as an actor. You don't really want to be restricted because you want to do everything. But it's using, like you said, to your advantage and redirect. I love that thing you said of not rejection, but redirection. I think it's such a hopeful way of looking at it, because there's so much rejection. Like after one success, you don't see the thousands of rejections that each person kind of gets. So it's not like, someone popped out of nowhere. It's all the hard work that kind of came out of it from day one, really.
Exactly. And there is this energy that we have to have in the creative industries that is so unique to our industry only. And it is this kind of dichotomy of emotions that you have to be super soft and gooey on the inside and sensitive in order to, connect with characters, tell the stories that resonate emotionally. But yet we also have to have like this armorous skin and this tough exterior where nothing can stick and rejections just bounce off you. And that in itself, just to master that in order for us to survive in this industry, is so hard and yet so important.
100%. And you obviously founded Shorties, which I am obsessed with. I feel like every single time I go to an event, I feel way more empowered. I go with a few friends and we're always like, I'm just so excited. But obviously it's a platform for championing female and non-binary filmmakers. So what was your want to do it, and why did you start Shorties?
Because ultimately it's a boys' club. Let's not get away from that. I found it hard to get my ideas out there, to call myself a director as well, which is often quite a masculine title. I mean, guys, I went into this not thinking directing was for me. I wanted to make a film because I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to center my experience. I wanted to say something about my experience as a woman. But I didn't think directing was for me. It's only out of necessity when I directed my first short film because I wanted it on my show reel that I fell in love with it. And I see this, and I surrounded myself with women, the women that I knew though. I, after Leeds Uni and drama school, I was hanging out with a lot of party peoples, and I didn't know producers, directors, filmmakers, like more like film arty people. I didn't know them. So Shorties for me, like, it started off because I wanted it. I felt it missing in our industry, and I love that you picked up on that kind of just fun energy of Shorties, because for me, when we're meeting people, like, we've just got to connect on like a banter level as well. Like, we've got to be having a good time, otherwise why are we doing it? I'd been to networking events that were dull as ditch water. Also people talking about big budgets, like 20 grand this, 50 grand this for a short film, and I couldn't resonate. I couldn't tap in. I was trying to find somewhere where people were talking real life hacks, or like this little fund here, or have you heard of this production company, or I'm starting this, those little like firework nuggets that you can kind of come across in a more social laid back situation. Bit of music and a couple drinks, but also we'd made these short films, and they're a labor of love, as short film filmmakers know. It's blood, sweat and creative tears that go into these, because we are, yes, we've got no money, but we are putting in our own time and our own energy. It's not for free. It's just there's no budget. And then what happens to these films? I mean, I was devastated, babe. I'd made this film, and then it was just sat on Vimeo and YouTube. And I was watching the views like slow. I was like, there's got to be more to life than this. We've got to, I wanted a platform for like first time or new to the industry filmmakers to have the opportunity to, one, show their film to an audience, like a receptive, open, like-minded audience, but also to see it on the big screen. We didn't shoot these shorts to be watched on a phone, watched on a little mini laptop on the train. I mean, it's great that they can be, and that's how lots of people get jobs, and we create show reels and our lookbook of work, which ultimately helps us get the big money, which is why film is so amazing. But you want a screening, you want a celebration, and it's that word celebration that I just really wanted to tap into, celebrating the work that we do. I've got a motto, it's work hard, dream big, and celebrate. And
I think that's perfect.
They all go together. You can't you'll burn out. You have to take those moments, take stock of those things, even celebrating the small wins. You know what I mean? Like BBC Writers' Room, top 5%. Celebrate that. celebrate that. You didn't go to the top, but celebrate those small wins. You got a little pot here. Celebration is key.
And I think it's also, whenever you go to a Shorties event, it's always like people want to make stuff together. And I feel like no one's using each other, which is what sometimes networking events can feel like. Sometimes you can see people go in there with an agenda of, I need to find this. And I mean, I'm guilty of doing that too, of having little tick boxes of what I want to do. But that might be like, speak to new people and get more outreach there and kind of understand what people want to do, whilst in other areas it's just like, oh, you're not big enough, you haven't got this, you haven't got that. Whilst Shorties is not like that at all. Everyone kind of is connecting and doing it together, which I think is amazing.
I mean, so I also run workshops in schools. I just did one in Kappa College last week, and that idea of networking came up. And I think we can so often think that networking is reaching and asking for things that you think this person will be able to deliver to a high standard, but ultimately you're at different stages in your career, and the most powerful networking is lateral networking. It's that networking with peers. It's so that we're all on the same playing field, we're all getting the same out of it, and then there's more of a conversation about passion, about ideas, and you've got a similar drive to do it at your level, rather than feeling like we're asking. I mean, there's nothing worse than that energy of, please, sir, can I have some more, sir? That is not empowering energy to have. You want to
no, it's not.
Level and be like, girl, I got this idea, and you'd be sick. You could art design it and getting people excited on that way about each other's work as well, and getting to know each other's styles. And
definitely. And I think one of the things that I found kind of exciting is when you did your little let's make a short film in one day workshop, that was even exciting, because I mean, we're finalizing our script at the moment and getting all of that. And it's kind of gone from the idea that we had to the first script, and then it's kind of changed a bit, but I think even to the better, like partnering with organizations, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just so empowering of meeting people outside your circle as well, just to get some more fresh ideas and then just create, which is amazing. And I think the way you do that and bind people together and, just be like, just do it, like, fuck everything, just do it, I think is the most important thing as well.
So I run that workshop. So you came to an in-person longer form workshop that I did in London, but it's make your first short film workshop. But I also run that online in an intense 2-hour session. And it's so interesting, even just 2 hours online. I've got one film with these two women they've made it and they're already in post-production.
Wow.
Finding those creatives though that are equally as passionate about, like I said before, investing their time and energy. You both want a common goal, so you're both on an equal playing field, and so you're holding each other accountable. This is a people's profession, and I don't know about you, but if I set myself goals, I'm more likely to dilly-dally and take my time, rather than if I strike up a project with somebody and I'm like, right, okay, where's this, and I feel beholden. You're obliged to do what you say, because it's somebody else's dream as well that you've got in the palm of your hands.
Exactly. And I think that accountability is like the most important thing, of being like, is this done, that done, and it kind of progresses a bit more as well.
I'm so excited about your film. I can't believe it. I'm so happy. I know.
I literally, we're finalizing the script this week, and then I'm going to send it over to you again.
Juicy. We love it. And this is what development is. And I think what's also amazing about this process as well is when you then speak to other people or other jobs, and you're going for stuff, they say, what are you up to at the moment? I mean, girl, you're in development. And that's what I'm in development.
It made me realize to kind of use what you have as well.
Yeah. And I think why I'm so passionate about these workshops as well is because it is literally like, when you come into the workshop, especially just the online intense course, it's like, all it is a reframing of how we're thinking. And so you leave the course with a different type of blueprint, with an energy that things are actually within your control, within your grasps, and not as far away as you think, which is empowering. It's empowering at the end of the day, isn't it, that we've actually got some control in this crazy industry that we're in.
Exactly. you share a success story from Shorties that was one of your kind of favourites?
Oh, loads. I mean, the thing is, it's a success to me when women and non-binary creatives come alone and they leave with connections, in order for me to create a space where creatives can come on their own, and feel safe and seen and heard and valued and all of those gorgeous words and welcomed. For me, that is a big achievement in creating like a community. We've got 1,000 creatives in our closed London WhatsApp group. I've just moved to Leeds. We've got 150, and I've only been here 3 months. There's a real hunger for it up here as well. And I'm basically setting up little hubs, WhatsApp groups in lots of different cities. So Manchester is next, and then Bristol. I'm going to strike up in November. But I guess success stories. So for example, some of the filmmakers that I screened very early on. So Shorties started in a tequila bar in Dalston, downstairs. I hired a screen. Bar Donya, if you've not been and you live in Hackney, what are you doing? It's amazing. Female run tequila bar. Everything's plush. The decor is elite. But they helped support me as well at the beginning, and NT's bar as well. And the films and the filmmakers I met then are now on like BAFTA long lists. The films they're making are to see the growth of what that kind of little bit of encouragement at that stage looks like. And that's what Shorties has provided and will continue to provide. And ultimately, as women, I think that is like a big difference between creative women and creative men, which is why we need Shorties, is because of the reframing of our talents. For example, a man will apply for a job if they have 2 on average out of 10 of the bullet points that you need for your, for the job. You need this, and this. Whereas a woman on average will only apply if she has 9 or 10 out of 10. And we want to be the best at that thing before we say we are that thing. And at Shorties, we've got these incredibly cute badges, if I do say so myself, that say like writer, producer, actor. Yes, this helps with networking, of course, but it's also an energy thing. You write in your bedroom, babes, you are a writer.
I have one literally up here, stuck on my wall being, I am this.
You are, and that is where so much of it stems from. It's that encouragement. It's that elevation of talent, which I was finding as well tricky in more masculine crews, for example. I've had it on a couple of occasions, a camera operator try and tell me what I should be doing, which I need to look at my own badge then, and it says director, and I think, yes, come on, you are. You don't need the help.
God, honestly, everyone needs to give their little sense sometimes. So from all of that, how do you see filmmaking and storytelling as tools for social change, especially, like you said, with gender identity and other justice issues that obviously women do seem to face more disproportionately than men?
Listen, if we're not going to make it, we're not going to write it, we're not going to create it, then who is? How are we going to see our stories reflected in our creative zeitgeist unless we make them? It's so interesting to be in my position and have the ultimate gift of watching so many, short films directed by women through this female gaze. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started Shorties, I was shocked at how different I was perceiving these short films, because it was unconscious bias almost that I had developed myself with this male gaze that was surrounding me in advertising, in maybe, I started Shorties like 4 or 5 years ago now, but it was in me watching these female-led films. I was like, these seem really different to me. And it was not a bad different, but there was a sense of sensitivity that I can kind of pick up on. And now I do actually think I can tell if it's directed by a man or a woman if I saw short films side by side. But it's just so interesting that we have to make the work. we have to be at the top of the creative ladder with the creative ideas, with the team. We need to not have our ideas watered down in order to see our stories reflected and our characters. And when I first made my short film, I'd been in an abusive relationship in the past, and I didn't want this idea that was being perpetrated in a lot of the films that I'd seen about this woman victim, this like weakness, that I wanted to kick against. And it was really important to me in my short film that I'd constructed a character that was strong and messy, and it's complicated in these relationships. It's not black and white, and it's not, of course each situation is different, but so often it's not the archetype that we see in films, and so often it's written by men, and you think, of course. And we have to be bold enough to write our own stories, and it's fed, that idea is fed through all of my work, to be honest. I was asked to direct a short film in conjunction with Horizon's youth charity, who are trying to abolish youth homelessness. And with the creator and writer of this character, Lacey, Abigail Sakari, we spoke about how women are perceived and how that would be if Lacey, her character, was part of the invisible homeless. There is like 35,000 young people that are homeless right now in the UK, but that number doesn't include the invisible homeless. Now, a lot of young girls I know through Shorties and talking about their stories and stuff have had a period of their life where, they're, to no fault of their own, they've left uni or they've come back and their room has been filled, or they're staying on friends' couches, and they're not that what you would classify as like the idea of casting call pro homeless, but what that would look like and what it does look like in our everyday. So that was a really interesting project to be a part of, and something that chimed with me and my energy.
I remember you guys screening it at one point, and it was interesting because it was very comedic. Like Lacey's character is, she's big, she's so good to watch. And again, it shows the differences between how people act and what they're actually facing at home, and how she was kind of going around the subject of why she couldn't stay over, or all these different things, right? So it's really interesting to see it through, like, how you can pick it up as well when you're with your friends or whatever that don't want to tell you that they're, surfing couches or whatever.
Inside outside though, isn't it? And we have it so much now in our modern day. I mean, it's called Instagram. That outside projection, persona, personality is a curated one. People see the glitz and the glam and the gloss. And I love that project, and I hope it did raise some awareness for them. That was ultimately the goal. And then another project I've been working on is, all my projects are female centered. All my projects have female protagonists at the heart, because I think just to skew representation, it's really important that is what we drive. Like, I get it, obviously female, you can be a woman and make them a short about a man. My idea is, why would you when you can make it about a woman?
I guess it's the ideas are different, right? We can bring a sense of reality to how women have been portrayed in the past. For example, if you look like, anything before the 2000s, at least, I think the main female characters are either, prostitutes, or they're crazy. There's not a lot of in between, or they're a mum. There's no, well, what else do women really portray? And it's everything else that a man can go through, but it's just different experiences, and they're a lot more nuanced sometimes as well. So there's not, like you said, there's no black or white. It's very grey area of how things can be trade-off, how things can be different. And I think living through that is kind of the easiest way to understand how to write it.
And that we still have so far to go, like I just did a project with a show that I wrote called In the Shadow of Her Majesty, but the two protagonist characters are women over 45. And, speaking to these actresses, they're like, Lois, just like, thank you, because we're in an industry now where you're a woman and you're over 45 and you're categorized as either, like you said, mum, grandma, And these aren't fully rounded characters. They're like almost like stock characters, like commedia dell'arte masks. Like, no, we can go deeper and stronger, and we can have a main narrative around these messy, complicated women that have probably, you know, gone through so much in their lifespan so far. And yeah, there's just so much more to dig into that really excites me about this world.
Do you have any projects on the go that you can share?
I always have projects on the go. You should see my notes file. It's a joke.
I probably share with you. I think I have a list of like 5 films so far that I want to be working on.
So I've moved up to Leeds, and I'm making Create Friends up here as I'm here, but I have seen a caravan, and I have this idea for this woman who lives in this caravan, and it goes back to creating what's in our reach. And I know if I put my nose to the grindstone, I've got that location, I'll make it happen with or without funding. And for somebody who, you know, it's so funny in the creative industries when they make us do so like forms, and you're like, where do you think you're finding these creatives that are really good at forms? And they're called producers. I like to feel like no matter what, I'm going to make it anyway. So I like to have that in mind. But yeah, also, babe, you know, a creative project I'm growing at the moment is the small child inside me. So that's also
that is the biggest project of all. That will give you so many other ideas and opportunities for stuff as well. So very exciting.
I can't wait to launch the mini Shorties baby grows. You know what I mean? I can see it. A little white baby grow with Shorty in pink. Come on.
Yeah, that would be adorable. That would be really cute. I can just see it in the next event. You know how media portrays women, or how women are viewed in a particular way? What do you think having the voice to kind of change that, or the way you can use short film to shift that narrative?
Oh my God, it's so important, because we actually have control. You know, we're taking the narrative back into our own hands. We're telling the stories from the perspective of strength. And there is something really spiritually beautiful as well about turning our darker experiences into something that could actually help someone else, shed some light on it, and make a greater impact on this world. And there's nothing like taking an audience member on an emotional journey to change something that's going on in their mind. You know, I really think people fall in love with people. And if you can make, in this world, in this hugely divided, very complicated, crazy world we're living in right now, if we can touch the hearts of people that feel like they would prefer to be secluded or secular, or that they're above other people, if we can touch those people emotionally and work on a human level, then maybe things could change in their life. Kindness can be born out of something. Or even, you know, for me, when I put my play on last year, I had so many like working class, amazing, gorgeous women coming up to me and being like, Lois, I'm like watching myself and my aunties and the people that I know on stage, and I just feel so seen. I know them kitchenettes. I know that energy. I know them women. And it's also just so validating, isn't it, to see ourselves portrayed in truth. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And I think it is what you said. It's seeing somebody or something that you can relate to and then say, oh, that is my story. And then hopefully that then creates change in how it's reflected, how the media talks about it, but also then hopefully policies as well. Personally, I think storytelling has a massive influence in shaping policies.
Exactly that. And Fully Focused are a production company that work with young people and work on specific like youth generated issues, and they do some amazing work. I've seen a very hard-hitting short film they created about knife crime, about gang violence, that kind of thing, to try and make that change. And I was on a panel with a director who did just that and made a short film about experience of getting stabbed, and he has people come up to him and say, I was going to go out and stab someone that night, and I actually stayed in and watched your short film. I mean,
Wow. I mean, that's a big change.
huge, huge. I mean, how amazing they have parliamentary screenings nowadays. You know, you make something that's kind of about a system or a struggle or a marginalized community or an issue. There's the opportunity for it to be screened to, you know, these parliamentary folk, you know, people who can make a change in legislation.
Yeah. And like I said, it's also a lot easier done than what people think, as in, especially when you partner with a charity that already has contacts with these groups and parliamentarians that can then speak on an APPG or whatever, then they talk about it and it changes. I mean, it's a long, boring process, but it's, you know, it does spark and change things. I'm also really curious to hear about kind of what your creative process is, from how you go from an idea to kind of carrying it out.
So my creative process is I'm very visual. I like to think of like the images before I start writing. So for example, that caravan film I was telling you about that I'm developing, the stock images, the way that I'd like it to look, a caravan on the hill, and then there's a fire, and what that will look like and the energy it will have. I also love to meet actors and to base characters around their strengths. And I've been fortunate enough to meet 2 actresses. So funny, they don't even know that I'm using them right now. It's like
I mean, I'm sure they're very happy to be used.
when I've got a script, they'll know. And so creatively, I like to do that. I'm someone who thrives off visuals and energy. And then I just start writing, and I'll write a first draft of something. I won't look back. I'll just keep going until I've got all the story that I want out. Sometimes that looks like starting from the images and then writing anything on the back of that picture that I want them to say, not creating too much dialogue. This is in short films though. It is different. Like when I wrote my theatre piece, I've written a 90-minute play, heavy dialogue, very quick fire, naturalistic, family, dynamism. And that just kind of poured out of me actually, because I'd been in these kitchenettes so much. And sometimes you get that with creative projects, don't you? I feel like it's just like the universe or God just pouring that, like you're the conduit of creativity sometimes, and it just comes out of you. But there's many different ways. I like to then get it in a room with actors. I love like that development process and just making that human quality. So yeah, it does really depend.
No, it's interesting what you said about pictures, because I love making Pinterest boards as well. I feel like that really helps to bring it all together. But writing stuff behind each picture is an interesting thought. I might steal from you because I think it adds some aspects to it. Well, if you could change one thing about the creative industries or make them more inclusive or just, what would you want that to be?
For me, that would look like creative development support. That would look like, God, being a creative in this climate is so hard. We are in survival mode. Our outgoings are so high. Our wages haven't gone up. I don't know how other money creatives are listening to this but can resonate, but you're looking for a side job. And if you're looking for, I don't know, to work in retail or to work in a coffee shop, babes, you better have experience, at least 3 years experience in each one of those side hustle jobs. You know, your coffees better be 10/10. You better be working in TK Maxx or River Island for at least 3 years before you can get a job. You know, this isn't the 80s when you could just get a job, a side hustle job, and you have to have a job that you can leave easily, that you don't, you have to be an expert in it. So for me, how can you be creative when you're doing a job you hate and you come back and you are exhausted? I think ultimately this industry doesn't support working class voices in the way that it should. That looks like more opportunities. There is just a lack value, I actually think, in this society for what we create. You know, you wouldn't have conversations with people who are making tech startups the same way as you have people that are making a profound theatre show or writing a new series. You know, I spoke to a guy who was the head commissioner at Channel 4, and he was like saying, I was saying about working class talent, he was like, well, you know, we're in development with this woman, and I just really want her to get it over the line because, you know, she's still working her 9 to 5 at TFL, and I'm like, she's still, so her idea has had a green light, but it's not gone into production. So you're expecting her to, so she's writing all these redrafts of her series whilst working 9 to 5. Now this is also, I mean, TFL is also a great company to work for, you know, but I see so many creatives through Shorties that is the one question: how can we stay creatively alive when we can't put food on the table because we're looking for these side hustle jobs that we also, it's really hard to get, like a shitty job, sorry to say it, but it is.
And they're also not paid that well either, so
it's awful. I mean, I asked the other day and I picked up like a really cute wicker basket, £16. I was like, people, like, you know, you work an hour to afford one basket. That's literally like the world that we live in. You can't even get a round of drinks to work an hours long. I mean, and this is more like systemic issues with our, you know, ecosystem and the way that everything is structured, and they have no money to pull from, so they can't help us. So I think there just does need to be like a reshape. It's something I'm trying to think of anyway through Shorties of how to do that, because it's too bleak, and what will happen is we will only see upper middle class, you know, writers, and therefore stories, because that's their experience. And as we all know, write what you know. And
well, yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing that comes out for it is also fear of being shame, or, you know, being put on the back burner. So for example, for me, it's, I have not seen any, I mean, so far, and I'm working on this, but I've not seen any people that are like Polish writers, for example, in the UK. There's great Polish writers in cinema in Poland, but in the UK, as a Polish immigrant, or someone like me, for example, that speaks perfect English but also has that other identity, there's nothing out there, which is also, it makes me question whether it's because people are too scared to write it, or whether it's still the fear of processing everything that's kind of happening, the rise of, you know, far right, horrible everything that's happening in the UK at the moment, or whether, I don't know, it's just interesting to see that. It's something that I personally want to do more with, but again, it's there is that kind of small fear of being like, that people are not going to like this.
But this is where the danger comes, because the funding is so scarce. It not only breeds a sense of sharp elbowing between creatives and unnecessary aggressive competition, but I think the less money that people invest, the more censorship that happens in our creative industry. And then we're talking about the worst type of censorship, which is actually writers and creatives censoring themselves at home because they are thinking of audience. And that is not a good way to create a diverse and culturally rich creative industries. We should have people wanting to tell the stories that they want to tell, not thinking, will people like it? I mean, people, you know, look at music. People didn't think they wanted Jimi Hendrix until they heard Jimi. You know, you've got to be bold. And with the lack of funding and the lack of nurturing and the lack of financial support, writers and creatives are thinking, will the audience want it? We can't have them as the first port of call. That is where madness lies.
Exactly. So it's like you said, it's shaping it to show that there is interest and want for these things, because there definitely is, because there are audiences that do want to do that. And it's, again, not censoring yourself and knowing that there is a better thing out there. But from that, so what kind of stories and themes that you haven't yet had the chance to explore do you feel drawn to and that you do want to do something with?
So I think all of my kind of like ideas come from personal experiences. And, you know, I think me having a baby is going to be a big personal experience that either I'm going to like make events or be on some kind of pro mama and baby board or something, or make a short film about it. And the loss of identity, you know, as an actress. You know, I told my agent I was pregnant, and the phone stopped ringing.
Oh God.
But why is that? And that is because we only ever see pregnant women in films or telly where the story is about them being pregnant. Why don't we ever see like a judge stands up and she's pregnant? You know, it's not written in there, or it's not creatively thought about. It's just like, it can only be meant, you know, you could write in just like a comment about the pregnancy, but it doesn't have to be this whole story, which is some of the only time we ever see pregnant women on screen. So that's another representation I can fight for.
No, that's going to be really interesting, because I never thought about it that way. I guess you whenever you go through an experience, you kind of see it from that perspective and where the gaps are as well. So that's really, you're so right. It's why can't they, like, women work when they're pregnant all the time, so why is that such a big issue? Honestly, this world baffles me sometimes.
The only way we're going to change it.
Exactly. Which is like the thing that we need to keep fighting towards. For any young filmmakers watching, especially women and non-binary people who feel discouraged or scared or whatever they might be feeling about producing their own stories or starting their own film, what message would you give them?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Just do it anyway. Do not let fear cripple the amazing joys that lie ahead. Everybody has an idea. Everybody says they could do. You know, how many times do I say to people, I'm an actress? Oh, I was going to be an actress. It's like when you say to fellas about football, you know, how many fellas like, I was going to be a footballer until I hurt my hamstring. But it's those people that do it. You know, we remember the creatives that go out and do it. And it's not about the final product. It's about the getting up and doing it. Like I said, it's walking the walk. And something to show why that is so important is when I made my first short film, it was so rough around the edges. The sound was all over the shop. The grade needed serious fixing. But we'd made it on £150. We shot it in a weekend. Me, the cameraman, and my acting creative partner. And I had a chance meeting with a director. He actually was knocking on my door complaining about how many parties I was having at the time. And we had to go for like an intervention coffee. And he was like, I'm a director. What do you do? And I was like, oh, I've actually just directed my first short film. And he was like, really? Let me see then. I mean, it was the longest 12 minutes of my life watching him watch my short film. But he loved it. And he believed in what I was trying to do because I had something to show him, because I was walking the walk and I wasn't fixated on it being this finished product. I just had what I had. He put it through a professional grade for me in Soho and a professional sound dub, and that changed the film's aesthetic. It elevated it. I could never have imagined before I started filming that film that opportunity would come about. But people love triers. God loves a trier. The universe loves a trier. It's we believe, but it has to follow it up with the hard work. Don't be scared of the hard work. Nose to the grindstone. Find your tribe. Make shit happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to end on, and definitely something that I'm going to keep in the back of my head as well for everything that's happening. But thank you so much for honestly, I always feel so empowered whenever I hear you speak, because it's just it bubbles that excitement of like, I just want to go and make things.
No, I love it. And you know, it's an inner monologue that we have to have, because like I said, Hollywood's not calling. We've got to show them what we've got. Create our own buzz, and then they'll be queuing around the blooming block. You know what I mean?